establish that.
Indeed.
Are you ready?
Yes, we are, Chair. Mr. Rulop, sir, we are on page 61 of your affidavit in bundle KK 2.1.
Yes, Chair.
And yesterday we concluded your evidence in relation to the email that you sent to Brigadier Mdluli, which accounted what transpired at the meeting that you had with General Mkhwanazi on the 15th of July 2015.
That is correct, Chair.
Following your account sent on that date, what happened thereafter?
Chair, as I testified yesterday, General Mkhwanazi transferred Brigadier Mdluli to the regular South African Police Service. And from there, the investigation did not continue during the time that General Mkhwanazi was the head of the DPCI. I had and still have custody of all the relevant documentation that was seized in the beginning in 2011, apart from the documents that I gave to Brigadier Mdluli for the declassification. I was never asked by anyone to supply any documentation or for any investigation to continue, and that includes disciplinary investigations. Therefore, in my opinion, General Mkhwanazi has effectively stopped any continuation or progress in respect of not only this investigation, but all other investigations regarding the alleged CI, the abuse of CI funds.
Before you turn the page, are you aware of any additional meetings that were called for by Advocate Sean Abrams in relation to the declassification of documents? And I'm specifically referring to paragraph 208.
Yes, Chair, on the 16th of July 2015, I was informed through an email by Advocate Rousseau, who is the prosecutor in the matter, that Advocate Abrams would like to have a briefing regarding the declassification of the documentation on the 22nd of July 2015. Advocate Abrams requested my presence. I, however, never received any communication from General Mkhwanazi's office regarding the briefing and therefore did not attend. The briefing was sent directly to me, copied to me by Advocate Rousseau.
And you were requested in your capacity as investigating officer?
Yes, I was requested to attend and in my capacity as the investigating officer, yes, Chair.
And this was notwithstanding the instruction by General Mkhwanazi 3 days earlier, which caused you to stop calling you to stop the investigation, or
yes,
rather no longer be involved in the investigation?
Yes, Chair. I do not know whether Advocate Abrams knew that I was instructed to stop the investigation.
In relation to media queries, have you received any media queries, or rather since that date, which you were required to attend to?
Yes, Chair. On the 17th of July, I was requested to attend to a media inquiry from Mr. Barry Bateman. Let me rephrase that. On the 17th of July 2015, Barry Bateman sent a media inquiry to the South African Police. On the 20th of July, I was asked to comment on that inquiry. It was sent to the office of General Mkhwanazi for response by 1400 on the same day. I responded on the same day, and a copy of the email, which includes my response, is attached as KDR 48. I do not know whether the media inquiry was published and why I was asked to respond, I also do not know whether my responses to the media inquiry were ever released to Bateman.
Can I ask you to turn to page 436, please?
What's the page number?
436, and it's annexure 48 for the record. Is this the email communication authored by yourself?
That is correct, Chair.
And this was in response to the media query?
That is correct, Chair.
For the record, it is an email communication dated the 20th of July 2015 at 10:07 from Colonel Cobus Rulofse to Western Cape DPCI Secretary, subject title Media Query, Mdluli and the classified documents. It appears to be quite a comprehensive response, but for purposes of highlighting any key point, can I ask you to go to the second paragraph after the
Chair,
the fifth paragraph, sorry.
I think we're on the...
Page 436.
Yes, sorry, I was on the wrong page. Sorry, Chair.
Can I ask you to please read the paragraph which begins with "I understand," which is about the third down in the communication?
Sorry, Chair. Chair, this is the question from Mr. Barry Bateman. I understand that police management allege that the documents can't be declassified because they were stolen from crime intelligence. I understand that there is an issue of whether the documents in the IO's possession are the originals or copies of the supposedly stolen documents.
For purposes of the record, IO stands for?
Investigating Officer. Chair.
And what comment do you have to this?
My comment is just, I cannot answer on behalf of police management as to the allegation that the classified documents were stolen. Whoever made the allegation should answer the same. I can state categorically that the classified documents were not stolen and were obtained legally.
If we can then go back to page 62 of your affidavit, please.
Just to go back to the 13th of July, did you ever get any report as to whether the meeting that General Mkhwanazi said he would attend alone with Advocate Sean Abrahams, which you were supposed to have attended, whether it took place, and if so, how it went?
Chair, I was informed the meeting did in fact take place. I was informed that by the prosecutor, Advocate Rousseau. He attended the meeting. He did not, in detail, told me what happened at the meeting. Suffice to say, it was not a very pleasant meeting.
It was not a pleasant meeting.
It was not a pleasant meeting. According to him, General Mkhwanazi regarded them as not an authority that can tell him what he can do or can't do.
Is there a plan to call Mr. Rousseau?
I am not aware of it, but if I could just check quickly.
Well, it's important to get somebody who was present at that meeting to come and tell me what happened at that meeting.
As it pleases, Chair, we will do so.
Okay. And has a statement been obtained from Brigadier Mdluli? Also, it would be important to get a statement from him about a number of things, but in particular about the meeting that Mr. Rulofse has testified about that the two of them attended or had with General Tlameza, where General Tlameza stopped Colonel Rolofse from continuing to investigate.
Thank you, Chair. We'll note that. If we could then go back to page 62 of your affidavit.
Chair, if I may, I just want to inform the Commission that I did compare the identity number of Ms. Ranjeni Munasamy, the one in my possession, with the one that was given to the Commission. It is the same identity number.
It is the same ID number?
That is correct, Chair.
Okay, thank you.
At page 62 of your affidavit, is it correct that General Tlameza was dismissed on or about the 15th of September 2017?
That is correct, Chair.
And this was following the judgment in the Supreme Court of Appeal, which found that the decision of Mr. Mdluli, who was the Minister of Police at the time, was irrational and unlawful when appointing General Tlameza to the head of DPCI.
That is correct, Chair.
Chair, a copy of that judgment is included in the regulatory bundle, which is at Exhibit 2.4.
Is it a judgment or was it just an order dismissing an application for leave to appeal?
It was a judgment, Chair.
At the SCA?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Just for your reference, it is the last tab, which starts at page 368.
No, that's fine.
What happened on the 14th of June 2017, Mr. Rolofse?
Chair, on the 14th of June 2017, Advocate Rousseau emailed me requesting an urgent meeting. His email attached various letters which informed me that Advocate Abrams, the NDPP, requested the assistance of the new Acting National Commissioner of SAPS, Lieutenant General J.K. Phahlane, which he was appointed on the 15th of October 2015 in getting documents needed and evidence in the CI criminal investigation declassified. The General Phahlane agreed in writing to assist Advocate Abrams and agreed to the setting up of a process to declassify the documentation. Advocate Abrams informed General Phahlane that he will inform the prosecutor of the decision to set up a process to declassify the documents. And a copy of these letters is attached to my affidavit. And I forwarded this to General Matakata thereafter.
Can I then ask you to turn to page 4?
I'm sorry. 1 second. You have a 213, a reference to events of 14 June 2017, and below that discussion involving General Phahlane, but then at 214 it says on 1 June 2017, General Phahlane was relieved of his duties as Acting National Commissioner. Is there no mix-up of dates there?
Chair, I think it should read the 1st of July.
Yes, in 214.
That's correct, Chair.
Okay.
In fact, we will certainly correct that because we have received an affidavit from General Phahlane, which informed that he was relieved of his duties from the 1st of June 2017. So that date is in fact correct. It just appears to be out of sequence.
Well, I don't know, but then it must be that the sequence of events is not proper then, because first we talk about what happened on the 14th of June 2017, and then later we talk about what happened on the 1st of June.
Chair, if I may, maybe I can
Yes.
explain. I received the email from Advocate Rousseau on the 14th of June 2017.
Yes.
The training or the attached documentation to the email dealt with issues or dealt with
Previously.
events that happened before he was dismissed or relieved of his duties.
Before that date.
Before the date that he was relieved of his duties, yes, Chair. I didn't receive these documentation during as it happened.
Yes. Yes. Anyway, I think do try and ensure that we've got the dates correct, because, or whether it's just a question of 214, maybe 214 needing to have been 213. Obviously, what happened first is what happened on the 1st of June. What happened on the 14th of June, namely the receipt of the email, happened later than what happened on the 1st of June.
It is understood through you, Chair, that the date on which he was relieved from his duties is to be considered in the context of his knowledge of the declassification of documents. And so the communication, which is dated the 14th of June 2017,
All right, so we just want to leave Parktown, Johannesburg for a little bit. Sentencing is being handed down to a young mother who confessed to poisoning and murdering her 4 children. The children were murdered in December last year. Let's go there now live.
Kanti-ke esho-ke ebhekiseke kulokhu okulandelayo esho ukuthi-ke umangalelwa akangamusho inkundla isikhathi wavele wavuma-ke wawavuma amacala kanti-ke futhi-ke umuntu oqala ukuphambana nomthetho lokuthi-ke lokho-ke evalelwe kusukela ngomhlaka 30 kuDisemba 2018 lokho-ke lindele ukuthi iqala likhulunywe kanti-ke nokuthi uyamukela iphutha alenzile nokuthi-ke yena ngumuntu oyisolayo ngakho konke lokhu akwenzile.
On the other hand, the state called for a minimum sentence.
As it pleases, Chair.
Okay.
If we could then turn to page 43440, which is annexed to KDR 49. This document appears to be an email correspondence trail, and the first email at the top of it is from Arno Rousseau, AJ of the NPA's office, sent on the 14th of June 2017, 1626, to Colonel Rulofse, being yourself, CC Paul J. Lowe, subject title, which is a forward, S versus Mdluli and others, and there appears to be one attachment. Is that correct?
That is correct, Chair.
And then what also appears from the document is the introduction, which reads, Dear Colonel Rulofse, kindly take note of the attached correspondence. We need to meet as a matter of urgency to discuss the matter and set up the meeting as directed by the Acting Commissioner.
That is correct, Chair.
And you've already given evidence that the Acting Commissioner at that time was Mr. Mkhwanazi.
No, Chair, it was...
sorry, Lieutenant General Phahlane.
That is correct, Chair.
Sorry, so sorry. If I could then ask you to turn to page 445, please.
I think that exchange of emails and letters, I'm not sure that there is much purpose in going to each and every one of them. Just reflect on this. It may be that what's important is to say there were letters and emails that were exchanged between so and so and so and so, or these people between that time and that time. But the ultimate outcome is that General Phahlane had at a certain stage indicated a willingness to have the documents declassified and then see what happened after that. So it might not be necessary to go through each and every email if it doesn't take that point any further. There were discussions, but in the end, the documents remained not declassified, but Phahlane seemed to be willing. This is the email he sent, and this is what happened pursuant to that.
As it pleases, Chair. There is then, Mr. Colonel Rulofsa, an internal memorandum which attaches 3 documents, which essentially calls upon Lieutenant General Phahlane to assist, and he agrees to do so at least from the 19th of January 2017.
That is correct, Chair, and he followed that up with a written response on the 17th of May 2017,
Thank
where
you.
he agrees to do it.
As I understand his email, the email itself wasn't necessarily agreeing to declassify, but he was agreeing to the setting up of a process which could lead to declassification. Is that right?
That is correct, Chair. As I testified earlier,
Yes.
the process that needs to be set up
Yes.
to get it declassified.
Yeah, so at least he was not opposed in principle to declassification. It just depended on the process that was to be put in place.
That is correct, Chair, and that is what I would expect from a
Yes.
National Commissioner.
Yeah, thank you.
Chair, there is a version of sorts that we've received. With by your leave, I'd just like to put through to the witness. It is an affidavit that we've received from General Phahlane,
Yeah, you
and
can
with your
put it
leave, if
to,
I may do so.
yeah.
Save to confirm in the affidavit itself that General Phahlane informs that he was appointed to the position of Acting National Commissioner of Police following the suspension of General Riapiecha on the 14th of October 2015. He has, since the 1st of June 2017, been at home on full remuneration, pending the processes of investigations against him.
That is correct, Chair.
Well, does it dispute any of the things that Mr. Rulofsa has talked about that relate to him?
Colonel Rulofsa, he informs that he takes no issue with the allegations that you make, but he, however, wishes to point out that he was not contacted by any person to assist in the declassification of the documents after he received the response from Advocate Abrams regarding his request. Do you have any comment or knowledge to that?
Chair, I cannot comment on what General Phahlane has seen or not, but I do have a letter from Advocate Abrams' office that was addressed to General Phahlane on the 24th of the 5th, 2017, wherein Advocate Abrams, in paragraph 2, states the following: the prosecutor in the matter will be informed of your decision and requested to liaise with the relevant officials as suggested. So there was a referral back to the Office of the National Commissioner.
And then to ask your comment to the following statement, and I read, he says, I am amazed that Mr. Rulofsa, as a senior police official, did not register any criminal case against me at the time it is alleged I frustrated and hampered the investigation, and by doing so obstructed the course of justice and defeated the ends of justice. Do
Chair,
you have any comment to that?
Yes, I do. I've never alleged that General Phahlane frustrated the process. I have the documentation here, and as far as I'm concerned, he was the one that assisting me. I cannot remember that I've alleged that he's frustrating the process.
It is to be understood that in the context of your affidavit, your allegations were addressed to senior police officials.
That is correct, Chair.
Are you changing your
No, I'm
position now?
No, I'm not changing my position in terms of that. I'm just saying that when the written responses I have would indicate that General Phahlane is assisting me. I do not, I think what I'm trying to, what I'm referring to when I'm talking about that, the first letter was sent in January 2017. His response was only in May. So in that sense, it would seem that there was no urgency and he was not going to respond within a specific time frame. I also do not know how long before this Advocate Abrams has spoken to him in that process. So he did not do anything about this until there was a letter to ask him to do it. So based on that, he did not do anything up until that point when he was questioned in writing or asked in writing to assist.
And so in that context, your evidence is to be considered when you say that there were attempts made to frustrate and hamper investigations by senior officials within SAPS. Is General Phahlane considered to be one of them?
In that essence, it will fall into that context, yes, Chair.
Okay.
Or in that sense, it will fall into that context.
Were there any requests made by IPID, the Independent Police Investigative Directorate, for the declassification of documents?
Yes, Chair. There were requests made by them. In August 2017, I was asked to go and assist IPID by General Mkhwanazi from the DPCI. And part of that situation was that as part of the joint task team, that the IPID will also, from their perspective, try to get the documents needed for this investigation declassified. If I can put this into context, at the time, before I got there, IPID was doing investigations also regarding the actions of crime intelligence and certain allegations or alleged criminality. And I think that is the reason why I was asked to go and assist them as well, because they sat with exactly the same problem, getting the documents declassified for court purposes.
Can I ask you to turn to page 453, which forms part of Annexure 50, please?
You say 456?
453, Chair.
453?
3.
Yes, continue.
This is a correspondence, a letter rather, addressed to Lieutenant General Motiba, who was the acting National Commissioner at the time, and it is signed on page 460 by Mr. R.J. McBride, dated the 18th of the 8th, 2017.
That is correct, Chair.
It is titled, A Request for Declassification of Classified Documents, and the particularity of the CAS number and the like follows.
That is correct, Chair.
This is a comprehensive, or it appears at least to be quite a comprehensive document on what information or documents were required for declassification.
That is correct, Chair.
If we could turn to page 460. Is it correct that this letter concludes that it would be appreciated, not is it correct, but the letter rather concludes that it would be appreciated if the above documents can be urgently declassified and handed over to IPID for investigation in terms of section 29(2)(c) and 24(3) in terms of the IPID Act. So there was an urgency to this request.
That's correct, Chair.
Is this the same request that then escalated to yourself for attention and response?
Yes, Chair.
So, Mr. Roloff, sir, the battle to get these documents declassified was quite a long one.
It is still a battle, Chair.
It's still a long one.
Yes.
Starting in 2012, you said?
That's correct, Chair.
2012. You prepared comprehensive documents explaining everything that you could to try and get the police and crime intelligence to accept that you needed these documents for legitimate purposes. The NPA also, I think we saw yesterday, if I'm not mistaken, yes, Mr. Mkhwanazi's very comprehensive document. I think Ms. September said it was 8 pages, if I'm not mistaken, but comprehensive letter or memo that was sent, motivating and dealing with lots of issues and saying, please declassify these documents. Nothing happens. IPID here sends Mr. McBride comprehensive document dealing with all these issues, asking, please, let's declassify these documents, and nothing happens.
That is true, Chair.
That describes what has been happening.
That's true, Chair.
Mr. Roloff, sir, the letter from Mr. McBride was sent to General Motiba, and it's correct that it was sent to him.
I'm sorry, Ms. September. Just to complete what I was saying, Mr. Roloff, sir. And throughout these years and throughout this correspondence, as I understand your evidence and as I understand the correspondence exchanged, it doesn't appear that anybody ever said, here is a reason why we are saying no to the declassification of these documents. Or sometimes maybe they were not even saying no, but the fact is they were not saying yes. Is that right?
That is correct, Chair. We haven't had that engagement. I have not received any reasons as to why it should not be declassified.
Yes.
It is a question of being ignored.
And you have quoted to them the provision that says classification mustn't be used to hide maladministration and corruption. And nobody has come back to you and said, no. Here is a legitimate reason why we say no to the declassification. It's just not happening.
Chair, it didn't happen, and as far as I also do not know what was the motivation for not declassifying a certain document that was requested by the Commission to be declassified. That was also not declassified. I do not know if there was a reason in advance for that.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Roloff, sir, the IPID request was sent to General Motiba in his position as Acting National Commissioner.
That is correct, Chair.
And is it correct that he was appointed to that position on or about the 2nd of June 2017?
That is correct, Chair.
But certainly, based on the letter that I've directed your attention to, he was aware, at least, of the request through IPID, approximately August of 2017, or ought to have been aware of it.
That is correct, Chair.
There was, however, General Jacobs, who was supportive of the process. Is that right?
That is correct, Chair.
Can I ask you to turn to page 449, please? At the bottom of the page appears, as part of this email trail, is an email from Major General Jacobs dated the 21st of August 2017 at 0908 a.m. sent to the Divisional Commissioner of Legal and Policy Services and others with the subject, including copying other recipients as well, with the subject title, Request for Declassification of Classified Documents. Once again, the CAS number details. If you turn the page to page 450, it reads, I am in favor of declassification of the documents, and so far back in General Dramat's time, so sorry. And so far back in General Dramat's time, the issue had been cleared with the Office of the IG. I propose that we follow up with NPA on existing process and ask person in possession of docket to produce original documents for declassification. The matter has been thrown out too long and needs to come to finality. I direct this to NPA's office as well so that we can move with speed on this matter. Kind regards, Flip Jacobs. Who was General Jacobs?
General Jacobs at the time was, Chair, I must just make, he formed part of the legal service, the National Office of Legal Services within the South African Police Service. The context of this email and his response was in respect of the request sent by Mr. McBride for the declassification of the documentation. They were asked, legal services in head office were asked to provide the General Matiba with a legal opinion. And I am informed that he was provided with a legal opinion with the advice to declassify the documentation. Not once, but twice. And no reaction came from General Matiba in respect of this advice that was given to him by his own legal services.
And so, is it to be understood that no progress arose following the email of General Jacobs?
That is true. That is so, Chair.
And progress insofar as the declassification of documents is concerned?
That's correct, Chair.
On the 22nd of November 2017, a new National Commissioner was appointed.
That is correct, Chair.
Who is the individual?
It was General Sithole, Ketla Sithole.
And was the request for declassification brought to the attention of Lieutenant General Sithole?
Yes, Chair, it was brought to his attention. It was also, I think, a copy. I don't have the document here, but I think it was a similar document, or maybe even the same document, addressed to General Matiba was also addressed to General Sithole.
And at paragraph 219 on page 63 of your affidavit, you talk about this issue of declassification being raised in Parliament. Can you please elaborate on that?
Chair, IPID was asked to appear before SCOPA. It's either late 2017 or early 2018. I attended with the IPID the SCOPA hearing. I think it was 2 or 3. And in one of those hearings, and I suspect it was the first one, this whole question regarding the declassification of documentation was raised. But not only the ones that I needed, but also the ones that they were struggling to get declassified in terms of their own investigation. During those hearings, I got the impression that the members of SCOPA was really interested to assist, and there were comments made to the effect that, and General Sithole made certain comments to the effect that he will apply his might and he will assist, and I think the hearing gave him about 2 weeks. About 2 or 3 hearings after that, I've got the sense that there was a change within SCOPA, because they said it didn't fall strictly within the mandate. It falls within the mandate of the Intelligence Committee. And that's where it ended. So that also didn't assist in getting the documentation declassified.
Well, Mr. Roloff, I will hear what some of the people who were supposed to apply their mind to this request have to say. But the fact that you are part of the law enforcement agencies in the country, and you are investigating what appears to be a legitimate issue concerning allegations of corruption and fraud within the police, and you are not assisted to obtain documents that you need for that investigation for over 8 years. It's just astonishing. It's just astonishing. Somebody gave evidence before me here some months back. And made statements that may have seemed shocking about what happens within the police in terms of wrongdoing. And I can't remember who it was, but I think it was somebody from within. And this battle that you have been on for so many years, one would have thought that the police would be very sensitive when there are investigations against some of their own, and would want to be seen to be more transparent, and would not want to do anything that might look like they want to protect one another, or that may be seen to be covering up corruption. I will hear what they have to say, but it's very, very concerning to me. Because over such a long period, anything could happen. Witnesses could die, and then you could have a situation where there's never prosecution, or there's no successful prosecution because witnesses have disappeared or died that would have been important for the proper prosecution of those cases. And I just think also that it must be a most demoralizing thing to any person within the law enforcement agencies who is trying to do his or her job properly, but meeting with the kind of frustration that it looks like you met with. But we'll hear what everybody has to say. Maybe they will throw light from different give us perspectives that we don't see at the moment, but it's really very, very concerning. But I also wanted to ask, I seem to have read some time back about a court application to challenge the failure to declassify documents by the police in regard to some matter. Was it not this matter?
Chair, it relates to this matter, but it was more, it is an application brought by IPID, by IPID, Mr. McBride, and it related to crime intelligence, but more recent abuse of the fund.
Yes.
And in terms of that, crime intelligence didn't want to release those documents, so that has been taken, that specific matter has been taken to court
Yes.
to force, or for there to be a decision in terms of how to deal with this.
Yes. So it doesn't include everything that we talk about. It relates to more recent events.
It relates to more recent events, yes.
Yes. But how far is that, do you know?
Chair, I'm not sure at the moment. I know that further affidavits was filed about a month ago, but I'm not up to speed as to exactly how far they are.
Yes. Do you have any information about that? Ms. September? Do
We
you
will
know?
certain,
Do you know?
we don't have any information at this stage. We will
Please
certainly look into
obtain
it.
affidavits filed in that matter. Look at those affidavits. Let me know. I want to see them as well.
Will do, Chair.
Okay, all right.
If I may proceed. So it's correct to understand that in the context of everything, we now turn to page 64 of your affidavit, where you deal with General Mkhwanazi. Is it correct that on the 23rd?
Just to finalize the point relating to General Sithole. So the thrust of your evidence in relation to him is that after he had been appointed National Commissioner, this issue of the request for disclassification was brought to his attention. He became aware of it. From what you understand, he seemed to have undertaken to apply his mind to it. But the fact of the matter is, up to now, there has been no declassification.
That is so, Chair. In paragraph 220 of my affidavit, I also referred to Brigadier Phahlane, who prepared yet again another memorandum, which was then given to General Sithole.
Yes,
So he was aware.
yes. I wonder whether when the National Commissioner of Police or different National Commissioners of Police fail to assist, or when you are unhappy with the fact that the National Commissioner of Police is not assisting in a particular matter, whether you shouldn't, there should not have been an approach to the minister or different ministers. Is that something that was not thought, or is that something that this kind of thing would not go to the minister?
Chair, I haven't thought of that. I thought that I would be able to deal with it within the structures of the South African
Yes,
Police Service.
yes, yes.
Or for that matter, within IPID or
Yes.
Parliament, but I didn't
Yes, yes.
I didn't see the point, but I didn't even think of that.
Yes, well, it might be one of the avenues open, but the Commission will be applying its mind as well, because there have been different national commissioners or acting national commissioners, and it would be different if they say, we want to classify, here are the reasons, and then you apply your mind to the reasons and you agree or disagree. So, okay, all right.
Mr. Roloff, sir, is it correct that on the 23rd of December 2014, General Dramat was relieved of his duties by Minister Mdluli, and General Mkhwanazi was then appointed to act in his place on or about that same date?
That is correct, Chair.
What was one of the first things that General Mkhwanazi did, as far as you are aware, and in your experience?
Chair, he visited two provinces, KwaZulu-Natal, as well as the Western Cape province. I can't remember which one he visited first. Can't remember exactly that sequence. And I know it was either very late in 2014 or very early in 2015. And he called a meeting. He didn't see the provincial commander, as far as I know. He called a meeting specifically with the ACTT, the Anti-Corruption Task Team, and he met with us on that specific day. During the meeting, General Mkhwanazi addressed us, and what was concerning to me during that meeting is that he informed the meeting, and that includes now junior officers as well. He informed them that at the meeting, the effect that if anyone wanted to challenge anyone, if they wanted to challenge his decisions, he would suspend them, and if they wanted to take him on, and that is now to court, he would get his SC to fight their SC, in other words, that officials, until that person ran out of funds. He went further to say that even if that person was successful in challenging his decision, he would in any event transfer the person out of the DPCI. To me, that was, I was taken aback by that comment. I mean, that's the first time that he, as the acting head of the DPCI, came to speak to anyone, and especially in the Western Cape, and that is what he said. I didn't know why he wanted to say that, didn't know what prompted it, but what it did is it created that climate within the DPCI that you will do what I say, or you're going to get, you'll be transferred, or I will suspend you. And the question about the SC, his counsel, he was referring to state funds. He will appoint counsel on state funds to fight you with your pension, with your money. It was, it didn't go down well. And I don't know if he understands the seriousness of what he has said at the time.
1 second. So basically he was threatening that if I make any decision and you try and challenge it, you must know that it's going to be a serious battle, and effectively I will be using state funds to fight you, and you will be using your own funds, and you have no chance.
That's correct. He's basically saying, financially I will ruin you.
If I may proceed. Chair, may I proceed? Colonel, Mr. Roloff, sir, did you know General Mkhwanazi from any past experience?
Chair, I do. I've met General Mkhwanazi in 2011 for the first time. I didn't know who he was before that. And the meeting I had, or during the time I met him, it related to a report that was handed up during the bail application of General Mdluli in the Boksburg High Court. This report in this report, he was appointed by General Mdluli to investigate the so-called plot against him. And then that report was provided at the bail hearing.
Before we deal with the report in particular, I ought to have been more specific in my question. Before you had this first meeting with General Mkhwanazi, where he attended Cape Town and made clear how he intended to deal with the department. Did you meet him before that time?
Yes, as I said, in 2011, during, I interviewed him regarding a report that was handed up in the bail application of General Mdluli, which he authored on General Mdluli's behalf after being requested to do so.
And if we can then go to page 65, you talk specifically to the report that was prepared by General Mkhwanazi, is that right?
That is correct, Chair.
How did it come about that General Mkhwanazi was called upon to prepare this report?
Chair, at the time, I just want to get to that point. Gentlemen, there was a newspaper article published. I think it was in the Sowetan, if I'm not mistaken, in which General Mdluli has been linked to an event in 1999.
Is that the forced arrest matter that you've already given evidence about?
That's the forced arrest matter that I gave evidence about. That article resulted in the information that was sent to General Lala for further attention. General Lala informed General Dramat, and then it was given to General Labia for him to investigate, based on the media report. During that period, General Labia spoke to the Mkhwanazi family, and during the preliminary investigation, General Labia became aware of a parallel investigation that's been done by General Mkhwanazi. He informed General Labia informed him that General Mkhwanazi would be continuing with the investigation, as he thought that General Mkhwanazi was also investigating the murder of Mkhwanazi. He didn't know the terms of reference of the investigation that General Mkhwanazi had to do. General Labia gave the details of a witness from the Mkhwanazi family to General Mkhwanazi, under the impression that General Mkhwanazi would continue the murder investigation. As I said, at that time, he didn't know that General Mkhwanazi was actually investigating someone else. General Mdluli instructed General Mkhwanazi on the 21st of July 2009, through his Provincial Commission, to investigate the irregular conduct by members of SAPS stationed at Sia for investigating the murder of Mkhwanazi, Mr. Mkhwanazi, and General Mdluli's alleged involvement. From my investigation, General Mdluli suspected that Sia members who were investigating him of trying to oust him as the Divisional Commissioner of CI. And then on the 11th of August 2009, General Mkhwanazi received a briefing from General Mdluli regarding the terms of reference of his investigation. General Mkhwanazi finalized his report on the 14th of January 2010. General Labia later obtained a copy of the Mkhwanazi report from General Mdluli.
Chair, a copy of that report appears as Annexure 51, and it starts on page 462.
Yes, thank you.
To just summarize the very key points of General Mkhwanazi's report, which you found of key importance, I would like to take you to the bottom of page 65 at paragraph 225.3.4. Can you please read the first one into the record?
It was clear from his investigation, that is now General Mkhwanazi, that a plot existed to prevent General Mdluli from being appointed as the CI Divisional Commissioner. General Mkhwanazi also accused Provincial Commissioner S. Kumalo, who is now deceased, of being behind the plot. General Mkhwanazi identified two police individuals, Warrant Officer Mkhabe and Warrant Officer Raketsu, assisting General Kumalo in this plot.
Is it correct that or rather, is this the conspiracy plot that General Mdluli had alluded to?
Chair, I've lost track of all the conspiracy plots, but this is one of them, yes.
Is this then the same conspiracy plot that the Ministerial task team was appointed, which was headed up by the Chief State Law Advisor, Mr. Enver Daniels, to investigate?
Chair, I do not think so, because the so-called people behind this plot wasn't the people that were investigating in Mr. Daniels' investigation, or by his task team.
So this is a different plot.
This is a different plot, Chair.
If we could go to the second point, please.
General Mkhwanazi in his report said that he spoke to the sister of the deceased, Mrs. Elina Ramokhibi, and that according to her, the matter was investigated and no member of the South African police was connected to the murder. General Mkhwanazi continued to state that the sister of the deceased had said that, according to the family, the matter was already put to rest.
Do you have any comment to this?
Chair, this is just absolutely, the opposite is true. I know the sister of the deceased. We've spoken many times. She also informed me about this conversation. She never said what General Mkhwanazi alleged her to say. They were trying to get the matter on the court roll for a long time, matter to be investigated, not even on the court roll, for a long time, for 10 years. So she would never have said that. That just doesn't make sense.
At point 3?
In General Mkhwanazi's view, there was a plot to stop the appointment of Commissioner Mdluli, but the people, i.e. the family of the said suspect deceased, could not cooperate with Inspector Mkhwanazi and Inspector Rekotso. Hence, the solution was to take it to the newspapers.
Do you have any comment to this point?
Chair, I just don't understand this. I do not know from what he's trying to say whether the deceased went to the family of the deceased, or whether Mkhwanazi and Rekotso went to the newspapers. I do not know. I don't have any comment because
No
this
comment.
is what he said, yeah.
I had a brief look at that document which you call a report by General Mkhwanazi. I may have missed something, but I don't remember seeing any factual basis advanced for the view that certain people had conspired to prevent General Mdluli from being appointed to the commission, to be appointed to head crime intelligence. Were you able to find any factual basis that General Mkhwanazi advanced for that view of his?
To the contrary, Chair, there were 2 affidavits attached, and one of them was one of Officer Rekotso. He denied that he was involved in this. It's under oath. He, in fact, stated that General Mdluli appointed him in his position. He would never investigate General Mdluli, which in fact also shocked me, because that's not what you're supposed to do. If someone has committed an offense, you need to investigate it. But the fact of the matter is not concluded based on fact.
Yes.
The next point, 4.
General Mkhwanazi obtained an affidavit from Colonel Martinez Gijsbert Botha. He is also deceased. He stated the allegations relating to the murder of the deceased and the involvement of General Mdluli were investigated, and that he, Botha, could not find any witnesses to give evidence or statements to prove these allegations.
Do you have any comment to this, based on your independent investigations?
Chair, in terms of my investigations of the Mdluli matter, the forced arrest matter, I approached Colonel Botha. He was still alive at the time. He said to me that he was under the impression that it was just an affidavit, a short affidavit that he had to prepare for General Mkhwanazi. He didn't have context. In fact, he was not the investigating officer. So I do not know the reason why he would have given the affidavit in the first place. He was not the investigating officer. The witnesses were still available, and there were witness statements taken from him. The investigation was just stopped in 2000, and it didn't continue. So his assertion that, and Colonel Botha gave me an affidavit to that effect, which was filed in the docket.
And then lastly, point five.
General Tlemeza concluded first that Warrant Officer Mkhwanazi and Warrant Officer Rekotso were to be transferred from Crime Intelligence to Uniform Branch to avoid further embarrassment pending the outcome of the final inquiry. And secondly, that both Warrant Officer Mkhwanazi and Warrant Officer Rekotso to be charged departmental for misusing state-owned vehicles.
Do you have any comment to that point?
No, Chair. As far as I know, they were never charged for any departmental case against them. Not as far as I know.
Is it correct then that the outcomes of your investigation, which relate to the discussions that you had with Ms. Lina Ramogibe and Colonel Botha, was placed before the court that considered the bail application of Richard Mdluli, to which you opposed?
That is correct, Chair.
What was the purpose then of the report of General Tlemeza in your view?
Chair, maybe I can just clarify there. I didn't know about this report until the bail application. This was handed out by General Mdluli as part of his bail application. So based on that, I followed up on this report, and I spoke to Ms. Ramogibe and I spoke to Mr. Colonel Botha. So I think I supplied a further affidavit in respect of the bail application.
So in your view, what do you consider to have been the purpose of the report of General Tlemeza?
Chair, the only purpose of this report is to show that General Tlemeza is innocent of the murder, but that was not investigated. And if you look at the terms of reference of the report itself, he was supposed to investigate this plot, not the murder. But this was used to clear him of the murder charges. And I subsequently was informed that this was also presented to senior management as well as General Dramat as evidence that he wasn't involved in any murder plot.
Can I then ask you to turn to Exhibit KK 2.4, please? The other bundle. It's called the Regulatory and
I'm sorry,
Case Law Bundle.
what page?
It's the Exhibit KK 2.4, the Regulatory and Case Law Bundle, at page 288.
Yes, sir.
288. This is the judgment of the High Court. And at paragraph 28, somewhat in the middle of the first paragraph to paragraph 28, and for the purposes of contexting or placing things into time context, the court records that in a letter dated 3 November 2011, addressed to President Zuma, the Minister of Police and the Acting Commissioner, Mdluli alleged that Commissioner Becky Cele and other senior officers, General Petros, Labia and Dramat, were working together against him. In the letter, he tactlessly stated, and it's quoted, "In the event that I come back to work, I will assist the President to succeed next year." He did not explain how he would assist the President, but it is reasonable to assume that he had in mind the conference of the governing party in 2012, at which President Zuma was re-elected as party leader for a second 5-year term. His entreaty to the President implies that Mdluli believed he had it in his gift to use his influence and the means at his disposal to the advantage of the President. Are you aware of this letter dated 3 November 2011, Mr. Rulofsa?
Chair, I'm not aware of this letter. I've got a similar letter which was attached during the bail application, also from General Mdluli, addressed to the President.
And so could I take you then to page 467, please?
Are you asking us to go back
Oh,
to
so
the other
sorry,
one?
Exhibit 2.1. It's the origin, the main bundle. It's Exhibit 52, which starts on page 467.
What page?
467. This appears to be a letter which is dated the 11th of November 2010.
Hang on one sec. Did you say 467?
467, yes, Chair. It's the last annexure to the bundle.
Yes.
This appears to be a letter dated the 11th of November. Are you there, Ms.? Are you at the page? This appears to be a letter dated the 11th of November 2010, and it's a letter that's addressed to A, the President of the Republic of South Africa, B, the Minister of Police, C, the Minister of State Security, D, the National Commissioner, and E, the Inspector General of Intelligence. It is titled Victimization and Abuse of State Resources against the Divisional Commissioner, Crime Intelligence. At page 471, it appears to have been signed by Lieutenant General R.N. Mdluli.
Yes, Chair, I'm familiar with the signature. It looks like his signature.
What is the relevance or significance of this letter to your investigation and the evidence that you've given?
In respect of this letter, what the relevance was, I think, during the bail application was to indicate to the President of South Africa that he was involved in a love triangle, and see the report entitled Alleged Irregularities, Members of SAPS Crime Intelligence, which is attached as Annex A. Now, he's referring to the General Ntlemeza's report that he attaches to this letter. And then he deals with the information that he received. And then he deals with him asking General Ntlemeza to assist in the investigation. And then in point 7, what is for me of importance is, I must categorically point out that this is now in terms of the force of this matter, that I was never involved in this love triangle. When Major General Sabia from the Hawks was appointed, Chantal went to him with the same allegations. This was then handed over to the Divisional Commissioner, Libya. However, by this time I've already provided Divisional Commissioner Libya with the report by Major General Ntlemeza. Then he continues, and he states further, and this is for me in terms of this commission that is very important. These are the very same members, and he's now referring to crime intelligence. These are the very same members that were involved in negative campaigning at the ANC conference in Polokwane during 2007. They were in the camp of the former president and are now trying to take control of the intelligence environment within the police for devious tactics. This is exacerbated by the fact that on 2010-11-10, one Officer Dloma was approached by 3 whites. One of them requested one Officer Dloma to reconsider his statement that he made in 1999. This change would positively incriminate Colonel Kimba and me. They have subsequently made a further appointment with Warrant Officer Dloma on 2010-11-16. They, however, wanted to know if Dloma's relationship with Colonel Kimba and asked why he was called killer. My relationship with Colonel Kimba is on a professional level, both politically and work-related. There is no friendly relationship as suggested. And then he goes further. He says, Colonel Kimba is an active member of the ANC, and during the struggle was a leader of one of the self-defense units under the MKVA. He was also a bodyguard for Mrs. Winnie Mandela and former Minister Steve Tshwete. I worked closely with them during the apartheid era, especially during the riots. Colonel Kimba also played an important role in the Polokwane Conference, and also during the president's trying times with engagements with the NPA. He was appointed in the police during the time of the former National Commissioner Jackie Selebi. It is worrying that after dealing with the Mpego issues, we still have to deal with supposedly our own people who are senior officers in intelligence environment that are still fighting person agendas that should be personal. The question now arises, what and how do they want to use the intelligence environment to affect the 2012 build-up to the ANC conference? With this in mind, I have for the past few months tightened on expenditure, especially remuneration for sources, with the view of ensuring funds are not abused for ulterior purposes relating to the 2012 build-up to the ANC conference. Do they want to follow the Mpego style and try and derail the ANC? I have requested an independent body to investigate these individuals with the view of uncovering their plots. These senior loyal members were also active with the interceptions of Mr. Tshwele's wife. It is important to note that a member of the erstwhile Scorpions are also involved in these activities. I will be failing in my responsibility if I do not mention that both the Joint Standing Committee on Intelligence and the Inspector General of Intelligence have commended me on my performance and stated that a marked difference has been noticed from the time of my appointment. I find it very disturbing and embarrassed to find that I have been investigated for no apparent reason, especially when initiated by persons who have proven themselves to be disloyal. I must also at this stage state that although I might not have gone outside and actively involved in the struggle, I was active in many other areas. I was and still am a loyal ANC member. Given the above and my frustrations, I humbly request that the decision be taken to resolve this issue, and if needs be, to appoint an independent person to address these so-called loyalists and their associates. It would be appreciated if attention can be given to the fact that my calls are being monitored.
Do you know if there was any action taken pursuant to this letter?
I do not know, Chair. What I do know is that from where I sit, it confirms the fact that crime intelligence are involved in party politics and are involved in the ANC conferences, which they are not supposed to do. It's not part of their mandate.
Yes, I was going to raise the question that in that letter, he seems to be talking to the politicians about factional battles within the ANC, and he seems to suggest that within crime intelligence or within the police, there are people who may have been on a certain camp in the Polokwane conference and others on other camps.
That is correct, Chair. That is exactly what I read into this letter.
Yes.
If I could then, in summary of the evidence you've given, ask you to turn to page exhibit 2.3, which is the diagrams bundle. And ask you to please turn to page or diagram 3.
The letter which you said you have when Ms. September asked you or referred to Judge Murphy's judgment, where he quotes one sentence from a certain letter that General Mdluli appears to have addressed to the former president, were you talking about the letter that you have just read or another letter?
Chair, I presume it's another letter because that specific quote is not in this letter.
So no, what I'm asking is whether, when you said you do have another letter, but I think you were saying it might not be the same letter from which the judge quoted.
That is correct, Chair.
Yeah, but what I'm asking was whether the letter that you were saying you do have is not the one that you have just read.
That is the one that I
That
just
is the
read.
one you were
That's the
referring
one,
to.
yes.
Okay, all right.
Chair, this diagram, which is titled Timeline, has been prepared with the use of 2 pages because it was simply illegible when on 1 page. So the timeline then starts on page 3 and it concludes on page 4. If we could start on page 3. Mr. Roelof, sir, is it correct that this timeline, which you have confirmed, is in fact a conservative representation of the delays encountered by different individuals within the South African Police Service and the MPA?
That is correct, Chair.
If we look then to, sorry.
I don't think it will be necessary to go through it. I think it's sufficient if he says he is aware of it and it's a correct representations of the delays that have happened, or its contents are correct, because I think it's quite clear, unless there is some other point you wanted to raise.
As it pleases, Chair, there is
Yes.
just one question I want to ask him on
Yes,
this.
okay.
Do you have any comments to the accuracy of time as it's recorded in the delays, which are represented in days at the bottom strip of pages 2 and 4, pages 3 and 4?
Chair, I've got one comment. This is a very, as I said, very conservative. The table or the timeline has been drawn up in terms of documentation that we know was sent, but I know discussions took place earlier, and I'm specifically speaking about General Noble, where I already spoke to him in 2012, but this only reflects from 2013. And then I think what is important is the days that gone by in terms of non-cooperation or non-assistance. And I would just, if possible, I was wishing to read those days out or read into the record. General Noble, from the period 7 March 2013 to October 17, 2013. That is 244 days of doing nothing. General Zulu, 433 days. In that period, it was 696 days from the beginning of 2013 to 2015. General Piega is very, very conservative, it's 109 days. General Klemeza is 944 days. General Mutiba, 127 days. General Sitoli, 968 days. And that's a period of 7 years.
If we can then, unless you have any queries, if we can then turn to diagram 6 of that same bundle, which is the last diagram. This diagram was...
Did you say 6?
Yes, Chair.
Okay.
Is it correct that this diagram was prepared of the affidavit that you had provided to the Commission and that at the time it was confirmed to be correct.
That is correct, Chair.
On the left-hand side, you have a column which is titled SSA, Secret Services Account, and you have procurement and or benefits, and or appointments and or benefits. Is it correct that procurement relates to the procurement of various assets?
That's correct, Chair.
Appointments relates to either involvement in the appointment of individuals into crime intelligence as part of the 250 process in 2010.
That's correct, Chair.
And benefits could be of any kind.
That is correct, Chair.
In the middle, we have a column titled Both, which is understood to straddle between the column on the left and the column on the right. Is that correct?
That's correct, Chair.
And so the column on the right is titled Obstructing Investigations, which is understood to be either through action or inaction.
That is correct, Chair.
The color coding key is at the bottom of this diagram. Yellow is civilian, blue is the South African Police Service, red is the National Prosecuting Authority, green is crime intelligence, black is cabinet, and grey is the JSCI, Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence.
That's correct, Chair.
And this diagram was then populated through the identification of individuals who were then either involved in the procurement and or appointments and or who received benefits in relation to the Secret Services account.
That is correct, Chair.
And on the other hand, your experience insofar as action or inaction by individuals, either within the NPA, SAPS, or even the Joint Standing Committee of Intelligence in relation to your investigations.
That is correct, Chair.
And so these particular individuals whose action or inaction effectively obstructed the progress of the investigations.
That is correct, Chair. The column on the right.
However, through your evidence, this table has slightly morphed in that you have given clarity on certain aspects which requires you to address some of these particular individuals. If we could first start with the column on the left-hand side, General Becky Cele.
General Becky Taylor is mentioned in terms of the in terms of my affidavit regarding the benefits. I do not. That is one of the issues that I could not corroborate. I'm talking about the financial benefit that was alleged to have been received. So, in terms of that, it was information. I am not in a position, and I presume I would have been in a position to either prove or disprove that had the investigation continued.
The next is...
But let me just understand this diagram. The first column, you've got SSA, procurement, and appointments and benefits. Then you've got people's names. Then the next column also has got names of people. All the columns have got names of people. What's the connection between the first column and the second column? For example, where it says Leo Hayes, BMW, Minister Nathi Mthethwa.
What is the connection with the...
What's the connection between the two? What does the diagram say about the two, for example?
Are we talking about now Minister Nathi Mthethwa?
Yes, and Leo has a BMW.
Chair, there's no connection between the two. It's about a benefit that Minister Nathi Mthethwa received.
Chair, if I may,
Yes.
it is understood that there is no particular relevance to the order of how these columns have been populated with names. There's also no linkages between the names as they aligned below or above or alongside each other. It was really, as I understand it anyway, a grouping of individuals off the evidence of the affidavit of this witness as to which individuals had been involved in the procurement of assets and or appointments of individuals and or the receipt of benefits.
What does that both mean at the top of the third column?
Oh, Chair, sorry, I thought...
Yeah, the third column you see at the top, it says both.
Yes, Chair.
It's both what?
It's both, these individuals would fall within both those columns. They are applicable to both columns. In other words, they benefited and they also obstructed.
Is it both benefits and appointments?
Yes, Chair. In terms of the first column on your left,
Yeah,
the heading says procurement, appointments and benefits,
yeah.
and it's also relevant to obstructing investigations, action and inaction.
Yeah.
So these individuals will fall into both of these categories.
The individuals who are under the third column.
Under the second column, under both. So the individuals under
okay.
both would, the individuals under both would qualify to fall under the first and the third column.
Yeah, probably it could have been made much more simpler. It seems confusing. But the idea was you wanted to make a list of persons who are implicated in one way or another in regard to procurement and appointments and benefits, as well as the obstruction of the investigation, either by action or inaction.
That is correct, Chair.
Yeah, okay. I'm not sure, maybe I don't understand, I'm not sure that it conveys things as clearly as it could, but one can always go back to your statement which says who did what, who didn't do what.
That is correct, Chair.
Yeah, okay.
But in all fairness to the testimony that you've presented to this commission, there are certain individuals that you need to address so that it accords with the testimony that you've given.
That is correct, Chair.
And so where reference is made to African Dream Church, which should be African Family Dream Church, is it correct that you were only referencing certain pastors
Yes,
of
Chair.
that church?
Yes, Chair. I'm not referencing the church. It's just by way of name, but we're talking about the individuals within the church.
And then in relation to LLVS Trading Services and Colonel V. Malaza, LLV Services being fifth, the yellow block, fifth on the left-hand side, and Malaza being the first green block on the left-hand side in the same column. Is it correct that that related to the investigations of Mr. Roos, as you gave?
That is correct, Chair.
And then if one looks to the column on the right-hand side, Lieutenant General Phahlane's name is included. Do you have any clarity in relation to that?
Chair, I think I've explained how I view what happened there. It is in terms of the inaction for a period of time, and that is why he's in that column. Although he did act, after quite some time he did act, after being informed in writing to assist.
And then if one were to look at the bottom block, we're still talking to the right-hand column, you have Advocate N. Njiba. It was your evidence that you cannot speculate regarding Advocate Njiba because you do not know if she saw the documents or not. Should her name thus remain under a column which informs that through either action or inaction, she obstructed your investigations?
Chair, as I stated earlier, and I've testified to this at the Mkhwanazi Commission as well, I cannot for a fact state that she knew. It would be just, for me, very highly unlikely that the office of the NDPP, with regards to a serious matter like this and an important matter like this, that she would not have been informed and would not have had sight of those letters. So I based my what I'm saying on the assumption that she did, but I do not know that for a fact.
Well, I don't know whether it might not be a good idea to revisit this diagram and and see where you stand in regard to each of the people, so that in the end you are able to say in regard to the following, my position is clear, it is this. In regard to these, maybe I'm not sure, but these ones are the ones that I'm quite clear about. So I just mentioned that it's something that it may be necessary to do a supplementary statement or a supplementary diagram that can be delivered later at some stage. But as I understand the position, the diagram was meant to make things clearer, but I don't think it makes things as clearer as may have been intended. But the fact of the matter is that there is the statement which says who did what and who didn't do what. So one can always go back there.
The only last point for clarity in relation to this diagram, which I believe this witness needs to clarify, is Brigadier G. Steyn. Do you have any comments to Brigadier G. Steyn, who was included in your diagram?
Chair, he was included in terms of the statement that is attached to my affidavit of Colonel Roos.
And then do you have any concluding remarks, Mr. Rulofsa? Having reached the end of your statement.
Well, this habit of evidence leaders of asking witnesses for concluding remarks. Mr. Rulofsa, I think that that's a way of Ms. September saying that she has no further questions for you. If there is anything that you think you have left out that's important, or some aspect that you might not have put in proper perspective, feel free to deal with it. But otherwise, since she has invited you, if you do have any final remarks, you may make them.
Chair, there's a lot of final remarks, but I will refrain from making them. Just to say, I would like to thank the Commission for the opportunity to be here and to give hopefully insight into what is happening in the South African Police Service, and also just to clarify that this is but a microcosm of what is currently happening with other detectives and other investigations. So this is not the only one, there are others, especially when it comes to corruption cases.
Was I right to say that was your way of saying you have no further questions?
Very correct, Chair.
Okay. Thank you very much, Colonel Rulofse, for having come forward to share with the Commission your experiences and your evidence about what has been happening and the challenges you faced when you were pursuing certain investigations. As I've said, I'm quite concerned about what appears to have happened, And it's clear to me that the documents that you have been trying to get declassified are documents that at least I'm sure some of them that the Commission would be interested in, because they relate to matters that fall within the terms of reference of the Commission. The legal team will remain in touch with you. Please remain in touch with them, and certainly attempts will be made by the Commission to obtain documents that may throw light on some of the issues that we have dealt with, and you will be kept informed. But thank you very much for coming forward to share what you know with the Commission. I hope that other people within law enforcement who may have gone through similar challenges as you did will come forward also and share with the Commission what has been happening, because the Commission can't make recommendations as to how things must be fixed in certain sectors if it doesn't have people who come forward and say there's something wrong going on there. This is what is going wrong. And if certain sectors in the country have things going wrong, particularly with law enforcement, and the Commission is not told, then the country doesn't know, then the country can't attend to those things to make sure things change. So I'm grateful that you came to share your evidence with the Commission. You may be asked to come back, and I've no doubt you will come back if asked. But thank you very much for coming forward. For now, I see Ms. September doesn't want me to release you. Ms. September, what do you...
Might I be permitted to just hand up a more legible copy of KDR 22, which you requested?
Yes, no, that's fine. You are excused. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. We are going to take the tea adjournment. I'm supposed to hear evidence relating to Estina after this, but the legal team will talk to me, I'm sure, during the tea break. And then we'll take it from there. And we'll see what is going to happen. We'll adjourn for tea, and it's now 23 minutes past 11. We'll resume at 22:12. We adjourn.
All right.
morning, Ms. Tabashe. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, DCJ.
Yes. We are supposed to have the evidence of Ms. Rockman
That's
in
correct.
regard to Friede.
That's correct, DCJ.
Yes. And she is represented by legal representatives.
Yes, DCJ.
yes.
Who would like to? They too would like to place themselves on record.
Yes, let's do that.
Thank you, DCJ. I appear on behalf of Ms. Rockman, having been instructed to do so by Mr. Brett Murison of Mkhwanazi. DCJ, thank you.
Thank you very much.
DCJ, just to indicate that she is here and able to.
Yes, Ms. Rockman is here and ready. Yes. Okay. Just for the benefit of the public, everybody is here and they are ready to proceed, but we are not going to proceed with the hearing of evidence today. We were going to continue even tomorrow in an attempt to try and finalize, but I'm not too well. And earlier I thought maybe I would be able to continue, but I think it's best that I go and try and rest, and if necessary, see a doctor, so that hopefully by next week I will be fine. So I am sorry that we can't proceed, and I know that people have made arrangements to be here, but of course, one doesn't plan for this kind of thing. So we are not going to proceed. I have spoken to the legal teams on both sides who understand. We are going to adjourn the hearing of Ms. Rockman's evidence provisionally to the 14th and 15th of October. It's provisional because certain things the Commission needs to check certain things with regard to a witness who was going to be here during that week, who might not be here because of certain circumstances. So confirmation will be provided in due course. At this stage, it looks like those dates are fine for all sides. That's what's going to happen. I don't know whether you have anything to say or add, Ms. Tabashe?
No, nothing at all, DCJ, other than to ask you to rest.
Yes.
And to actually see a doctor. Thank you, DCJ.
Yes. Counsel for Ms. Rockman, anything you want to add or say?
Safe to echo the sentiments of our leader, DCJ. We don't have anything to add. We confirm that the dates are suitable to ourselves and to Ms. Rockman, provisional as they are, and we will hear from our leader in due course as to whether those dates become final or not.
Okay. Thank you very much. In that event, then, we are going to adjourn proceedings for the day. On Monday, we are meant to commence at 2 o'clock, not in the morning as usual. There is an application that I will be hearing, and there may or may not be oral evidence after that hearing. I'm not sure, but we are not starting in the morning as usual. So I thought I would also just indicate that for purposes of the media and the public. We adjourn.
All rise.
Anna?